Right. So yes, we are talking about the ED card, but I actually, instead of looking at ED card form, I wanted to focus on this slide here. And good morning, all. And this slide basically looks at how we can integrate the ED card form with what we do at CARICOM IMPACS. And this is based on the previous discussions we already talked about the BIMSAFE app, the information, the different repositories that information being stored in. And in here, from a security perspective, we want to look at all of the different players. You must have one central repository distributed, yes, to look at where the card form can lay. So if you look at here, the vaccination, electronic declaration form, PCR rapid antigen test. Now this is basically within, we're saying this can actually combine with our visa information and take that APA information collected. And from there, that's where you come to purchase a ticket. And this is all looking at basically having a simplified travel solution for the Caribbean. And right now we're doing it in Barbados, and it's extended for all for Barbados and the OECS, and it's extended to every player in the CARICOM market. So you're gonna ask me what the benefits. The benefits basically here, Junior and everyone, is cost savings, facilitation, earlier start of processing. Because, for example, let's say my good friend that's on the call, Mr. Bevel Wooding, let's say who likes to travel. Let's say he travels and he needs a PCR test, coming to Barbados, and he fills out the ED card form. That information comes to us at CARICOM IMPACS. Once it's validated that he is either vaccinated or he has a valid PCR test, negative PCR test, then we do the full screening into the solution, because we want to maintain border security. That's the solution we have that we would like to offer, well, that can come in place once all the relevant parties are, are in agreement. Okay. From there, we want to look at policies. So you're gonna make it more robust in some cases. So you gotta look at the pertinent legislation and regulations. Then you have to look at agreements with other parties and agencies, higher level parties, policies, anticipated threats for sure. And then you have to look at it, how we're going to implement it. You got to plan, you have to develop, you have to implement, then you have to operate and optimize. And then obviously the optimization will come in maintenance costs. And then we have to look at the CARICOM's risk tolerance. Okay. So this will be covering for anybody coming into the Caribbean or CARICOM region. Any questions here? Any, I'm open to discussion. Go ahead, Junior. Any questions?
No, I'm just, go ahead. I don't have any question. I just wanted to ask the panel and any other presenters if they have any observations or comments as well too. So feel free to interject, feel free to comment.
Yeah, because this one is an open discussion, back and forth.
Yes, it's meant to be open discussion and stuff. Well, I would probably start if no one else has. In terms of policy consideration, the policy imperative, I wonder if you could probably define the process for me in terms of where did it start? Did it start with consultation, public consultation? Was it a specific request or a specific situation that was observed, noted? How did the policy formulation process evolve?
Well, okay, the policy had to evolve because of the current situation with the COVID pandemic. So, usually you come in, you fill out the form, and then you go through the arrival lounge, the arrival lounge through customs, etc. However, to mitigate and to keep protecting everyone, what had to take place? One, you had to let's put the card online so we know who's coming beforehand. Once you know who's coming beforehand, then from there you can process it. Do they have, all right, so if you come to Barbados, you need a PCR test. If you want to leave the Caribbean, go to the States, they accept the rapid antigen test. You take that, those results are stored somewhere. But how do we get those results? So then you had to come up with a policy. So you know what? Put everything online. Once you put everything online, then we have it goes to a database. It goes to different agencies to input their information, and then it comes to us through our APIS and our border security platform. We're saying integrate everything. That's how the policy comes. That's how it came about.
Okay, great. Okay, so just to get a sense, because I'm looking at the presentation and talking about the pertinent legislation and regulation, higher level policy. So I suppose the policies to me were created, and anybody else could give that. You could respond, Donovan. Would have been created out of a particular need, the COVID in particular, but you had to be creative in terms of adapting policies to address the specific situation and the specific gaps that arose out of the process.
Correct.
So the new process to deal with a new problem, but that gave rise to specific policy imperatives that needed to be created to address specific gaps. And I just wanted to find out if there, as you're on that slide, were there any challenges in terms of, getting the policy created, ratified, approved? I know these things it goes through the bureaucratic system, but how did you all creatively manage to accelerate that process?
Communication and collaboration, and that's the politically correct answer.
Right. And I suppose you had a champion leading the charge, and all of that to drive the process.
Correct.
Great. Okay. Great.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
So any other questions? We don't have any questions online at this point. So, we want the interactions and other or questions. Any of the other panelists? I think Bevel has his hand up. Yes.
Yes,
Bevel.
Mr. Wooding.
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Wooding, sir.
No, I actually just wanted to commend you on the way that you have laid out the policy considerations. I believe that these are the issues that we have to contend with. I wanted to get a sense from you as to whether or not you could put a timetable to any tangible action towards some kind of coordinated regional approach. I know you, myself, and others would have been of the position and belief that these are the things that we need to return the Caribbean to some degree of interaction and movement of peoples and so on. Timeframes?
You always know how to ask the right questions at the right time. Timeframes, I can't answer that, to be honest, because it is a fluid process, is a moving machine. As the protocol, as the pandemic, as it goes on or as it's ongoing, protocols can change, requirements can change, and so your optimization is happening every day. So in terms of time frame, again, Barbados is doing it. You want to extend it to all OECS and the OECS, but then the entire CARICOM. So once people see the benefits, then I would say that would then determine the time frame of the full rollout.
Thank you very much. I see we have Daniel Knight. Your hand is up, and you have a question, Daniel. Thanks for the response.
Yes, we are actually in the process of implementing the electronic ED card as we speak in Antigua and Barbuda. So we are actually driving the process from the Ministry of Information. So it's very useful and timely seeing this presentation. I guess the question is, once we are on board, how will entities share data, for example, statistical data, with other regional territories, or how will we, let's say, hand over when it comes to cross-border interactions in relation to this same process? Because I can see the application locally, but in terms of if we are moving as a sub-region and then as a region, how will there be integration is what I'm asking.
So good question, Daniel, and thanks for that. Yeah. So integration can happen through the GRCC, which is the Joint Regional Communication Center for CARICOM IMPACS. And so right now, the GRCC gets all the manifests for all travel participants throughout the CARICOM member states. So the integration there, all that needs to happen is a simple link, and from a technical perspective, I would say over a regional private access network, secure, probably using we're not getting too technical, probably using a layer 2 VPLS or layer 2 MPLS VPN, and we get to go there. But once that information is passed, it comes into the agency, and the agency will then have we can then have access to other border securities and databases to pass that information to the relevant member states.
Yeah, so I just have a further question, a leading question to that question, Donovan. I think it's a good point. As information is passed or data is passed from one territory to the next, obviously there are going to be repositories in those territories that will be responsible for processing the data, storing the data, and of course disseminating it accordingly. How are there any standards that you would have defined for other member states, like for instance Antigua and Barbuda, who would be I wouldn't say a third party, but a beneficiary of the service that you're providing through this central system? Are there any requirements from their side, whether it's data storage, network, computing requirements?
No, right. Those requirements would have been passed, and obviously I don't want to divulge certain things, right? But those requirements would have been passed to the relevant member states for basic operation and then scaled operations. Because when you design these things, you always look at scalability and expandability. Then you look at reliability.
Okay. Right. And again, that is, I suppose, a big part of it, the whole issue of the 5 nines, availability. So that is a key. That will probably be number 1 and number 2 and number 3 in terms of requirements.
Correct. And then redundancy.
And then redundancy, okay, yep. And failover and all those things, depending on, all right, okay.
Correct.
Yes, I know you can't divulge the architecture, but just wanted to get a sense of, because there would be, I'm sure, other member states listening on who would be interested in benefiting from the platform and leveraging their own systems to interface with the border protection platform. So it would be interesting to kind of get a sense, Is there a process? Probably, if anybody else doesn't have a question, I know. Is there a process to engage? How is there a process to see, for instance, Trinidad and Tobago would want to be part of this process? Mm-hmm. What are the steps to engage?
Well, I don't have the exact steps. What I can do, I can get them documented for you. I know the point of contact is the executive director, Colonel Jones. Right. And he would actually lay those steps for you, but I can get them from him and I can pass them on. That's not a problem.
Yeah. Because it's certainly CARICOM impacts. This particular solution will certainly be beneficial to the region, and I'm sure other member states certainly would benefit from this.
Because remember, Junior, is you must have a need for consolidation and collaboration between the form, various systems, especially for the COVID management, and then the latter will transcend the arrival or departure for customers, and even stretch as far as their quarantine stay on the particular area.
I'm interested because I know beyond this particular solution, there is a need for that collaboration and communication across the region, because we're talking about digital identities now as well, as another option for mutual recognition of digital identities across the region. And so, but there obviously for that to happen, there needs to be some thresholds, a minimum set of requirements, and there might be legal requirements, technical requirements, other requirements, and countries might be at different levels of maturity in their process. But at least there should be a benchmark that is agreed upon that countries can adopt, mutually accept digital IDs across the region. And this platform also, similarly to me, would have requirements as well, and even the underpinning infrastructure to support that, which could be a regional digital ID platform that is integrated as well. So all these conversations we need to have, and to me, the core of it is really the willingness to collaborate, as you said, and communicate. Because without that communication and these discussions we're having like today, going beyond just the forum like this into real workshops and groups and committees or whatever we set up. Go ahead, Donovan.
Correct. So before, I see Ian has his hand up and I see Bevel, but before Bevel goes, so for example, this initiative, if planned properly or planned correctly, could actually lead into what I foresee as the development of a regional internet exchange point. I will just leave that there. So I know Bevel is smiling, so I'll leave that there for now.
Right, great. We have a question there from Albert Daniels. I just want to read it out. And the question is, what attention is being given to how DNS attacks may lead to compromise of data and migration in this regard? Are the servers for this system,
DNS security?
DNSSEC, right? DNSSEC protected.
Right. So yes. So good question, Albert. Now everything that we do here is actually cybersecurity conscious, and we actually take security very, very seriously. So everything is secured without giving to an SSL, and the solution is full end-to-end encrypted. So all the data is, you have full end-to-end encryption from source to recipient, or in telecoms terms, from first mile to last mile.
Great. I see Bevel has his hand up. Bevel.
Thanks, Junior. And Donovan, I have one for you. I'm leaving your provocative comment alone. I actually wanted to pick up on the statement you made and build on what Junior was saying, because I think this actually presents an interesting opportunity for us to, one, define standards for interoperability in this peculiar space and scenario that actually will allow us to come out of the gates and be more helpful to member states faster than if we had to wait on legislative harmonization. And I think it would be extremely beneficial if there was some kind of guidance document that represented best practice or recommended practice for interfacing with and benefiting from the model that you have on screen. Has there been any consideration given to that, the development of a kind of first output guideline for territories seeking to do border protection that can be ultimately integrated with a more regional approach?
Yeah, it is actually on the roadmap. Planning is still ongoing, but as you know, these things will take a little bit of time to make sure all the nuances are covered.
Right, but it's definitely one of the shorter outputs on the roadmap.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that is important. That's that point, that we have a common framework, regional framework for adoption, for deployment, and all of that. That's really, really important. I think that creates the core of the conversation moving forward. So if there is that, as Bevel said, a short timeline for it, that'd be really good. If that's on the agenda, there's a short timeline for releasing that, certainly would cause, accelerate the movement and the adoption across the region. So I think I see Ian, because your hand is up. Yeah.
Yes, sir. My question to Donovan. I'm looking at 1.5, of course, with great interest. And I'm asking the question, is this a low-hanging fruit, and where are we? Because obviously we are still in COVID times, and this would be one of those things. The rest of the process in red is pretty clearly defined, and now we have to put in this little bit, 1.5. Where are we with that at the moment? Are you in some discussion that you can give us an idea where we are?
That is a proposal. That is a proposal, and that is in discussions I had with the team here is how we think it can work. So it is still in the planning phase, but I let's say 80, using the 80-20 Pareto principle model, 80% sure that it will be the next step, because again, you want one solution to capture all the information, where is a one-stop shop.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, no
Great.
problem.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. And we have another comment from Bevel. I don't know if you want to react to it. Yes, Donovan. Can I also see a scenario in which the repository is security hosted in exchange points throughout the region?
Sure. I think Mr. Wood and I can have a conversation on that.
Securely hosted. Yeah.
Securely, yeah. So Mr. Wood and I can have a conversation on that later on throughout the day once he's available. I have some ideas that we can discuss to see that happening. But the exchange points from a regional perspective can work. Once the technical know-how is easy, is now the again coming back to the pertinent legislation and regulations. That's always a challenge. The legislation, the regulations, implementation is fine, because you take, if you have the St. Kitts IXP, the Grenada IXP, the St. Lucia IXP, you join them all in a secure ring, go into one major IXP, then you can actually have spurs coming from the databases into those IXPs, and the information is easy accessible over a secure what we call a private network. That and a VPLS or a layer 2 MPLS VPN can do that easily. But Mr. Whitting, sir, we can have that discussion later today.
Great, excellent. Okay, thanks a lot. Any more comments or feedback, or anything, Donovan, you would want to share specifically? You would want us to have some interactions around anything that you would want to pose to any of your colleagues?
The only thing I would like to pose from here is one, when we look at integration, we just have to remember to be looking at border security, and then to stress on what Albert mentioned. We got to look at the cybersecurity aspect, make sure that the cybersecurity aspect is first and foremost in our minds when we design and look at new network architecture. Okay, so you want to make sure normal repudiation. So basically the CIA of security, the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability. That's what you want to look at, and that's how I would like to close this session, and open the discussion on that aspect.
Great. Thanks a lot. So if there aren't any more questions at this point, we will move on to the next session. And again, Donovan, thanks a lot. Really insightful discussions we had, and I like how you started the presentation with discussions. All right, and it really stimulated discussion. You opened up yourself for interrogation and discussion, and you handled yourself very admirably, and all right, and you responded to the questions in an excellent manner. So
thanks for the opportunity, and it's also always good to see good friends like yourself and Mr. Wooding and Mr. Daniels in these type of forums. Always very stimulating.
All right, good, Donovan. Excellent. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now we will be moving on to the